At this point in my life, I'm more of a Godfather 2 guy than a Godfather 1 guy. The Godfather 1972 is an undeniable, inescapable masterpiece in my view, although if I had to choose one of the two, yeah, it's gotta be 1974's The Godfather Part 2. Whilst the first film benefits popularly from the presence of Marlon Brando, The Godfather Part 2 is, to some, it's just simply the continuing story of Michael Corleone, one which we saw some of the most fascinating and memorable moments of during the first film, although it's in The Godfather Part 2, wherein we both get the continuing story, the tragedy, the brutality of Michael Corleone's time as the Don of the Corleone family, and then you have the rise to power of Vito Corleone. And is every scene a great scene in this film? Let me say that. The opening introduction to young Vito Andolini / Vito Corleone, phenomenal. That initial stretch of Michael in Nevada, then going to visit Hyman Roth in Miami, then Pentagoli in New York. Cutting back to Vito Corleone's origin story, these are some of the finest stretches in film history. Everyone loves these segments. Don Fanucci and the stealing of the carpet, of the rug, and then him going back to seek revenge in Sicily. My name is Vito Andolini and you killed my father. The knife going through the belly. That segment is the stuff of absolute legend. And then Michael Corleone, Al Pacino's Michael Corleone. It kind of breaks my heart. Michael begs his mother her sagely advice. How do I not? I'm scared of losing my family. How do I ensure that my wife and children will never leave me? Ultimately, he wants the respect of everyone. He is so determined that he believes, as Vito did, that respect only truly comes with fear. And unfortunately, this fear is what drives away Kay and the children. Well, just Kay ultimately. Michael seemed like he was a good man. He loved his family, of course, although it was ultimately his conscience that chose him to sign up in the army after Pearl Harbor, despite his family's disapproval. He came back and he was willing to, associate with his family again, and ultimately it was the violence against his father, and then the threats of violence to his father, which ultimately, and the death of his fiancée, in Sicily, wife in Sicily, and then his older brother Sonny, which led Michael to a breaking point. I actually sometimes suspect that Michael's experiences in the war, something may have happened there that permanently set off a fear or an anger in him, that this kind of urge to fight back at what could be psychologically paralyzing him. He overcompensates for a fear for a sense of vulnerability, perhaps being injured in the war had something to do with this, or feeling as though he was, just seeing what happened to his family members, his father being shot, Sonny being shot, wife being blown up. Why wouldn't Michael end up like this, realistically? Not to justify his actions, but I think part of the tragedy of The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, as much as we despise Michael by the end of it, it's no surprise to us how it ended up this way, especially when considering the death of his bride in Sicily. I think that's ultimately what does it more than anything, is how it's always come across to me. I think if Michael Corleone went to heaven, he would still be in Sicily with that lady and have children with her and die happy with her. One thing you notice about Michael Corleone is that he is an extraordinarily respectful human being to everyone around him. I mean, prior to everything going wrong, you know what I mean. He's an extremely nice boy who was broken by the brutality of the world. And he figured, I'm trying to respect them, and if they can't respect me, I'll make them respect me. It's their prerogative. Everything Michael does that may be considered disrespectful while he's the Don, it's always precipitated by what he perceives as a slight or disrespect in the first place. Take in the first film, him going to offer to buy out Mo Green came in response to, plausibly, Mo Green's treatment of Fredo, as he had heard reports of. Michael's perceived disrespect to Pentagoli in lieu of the Rosado brothers is due to his perception that, and this is Michael's great insecurity, ultimately, that they're never going to respect him like they respected his father because his father made it from nothing and Michael is ultimately perceived as inheriting his father's fortune. Think about it. Salvatore Tessio was making plans to murder Michael at his father's funeral. Michael is well aware that he will never truly gain the respect of those who respected his father. And so, fear may be the next best thing. I have to admit, it is possible to sympathise with Michael to some degree. The world is a harsh and brutal place. And sometimes, in response to extreme disrespect or savage bullying, we feel as though only a kind of wrath will do this injustice some right. He commits evil acts because to him it might soothe a pain deep, incurable, deep inside him. That stretch of the film that takes place in Cuba, one of the finest moments in the history of the medium. Now, we all know Gordon Willis's photography in the first film was impressive, but imagine Gordon Willis's photography in the follow-up with the profits of the first film. I gotta say, yeah, Gordon Willis's photography is even sharper and even more overwhelmingly impressive in the sequel. I tend to think of Francis Ford Coppola's best film as being his Vietnam War take on Heart of Darkness. Although sometimes I think Godfather 2 is not at all far behind it.